Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Kanak Kalira. I hold a PhD in mechanical engineering and currently I'm associated with Valtech Technical University in Chennai in the mechanical engineering department. The primary concern of all of us when we are writing any paper or when we have done some work is where to publish them and how to publish them. That's a primary concern for all of us. Uh, so in this session, we'll discuss about how to find a suitable journal for our research paper. I have made a small PPT here on what you should decide before you choose a journal. But by no means is this lecture exhaustive. There can be some other ways also. This is the best policy for me, and this has worked personally for me, and I have got good results out of it. We would like to recommend, but it doesn't mean that this is the only way or this is the only part you should also progress. What I do when I try to decide the different criteria for choosing a journal is that I try to see that what is the paper or what is the theme of the paper that I have written. For example, this is a recent paper that I have just completed. We've just completed this paper, and I'll be using this paper as a sample or as an example during the course of this video or during the course of this session. Okay, so for example, in this particular paper, it is a collaborative project with some other researchers from geographically different locations. What we have done in this paper is that we have taken a structural engineering problem and tried to solve it with the help of computational intelligence. Mainly, we have used soft computing codes like the meta heuristic optimization. Let's not go into that. So basically, what I mean to say here is that this paper is an interdisciplinary kind of thing, where we have a core domain problem from structural engineering, and we have some methods and some algorithms from computer science or a subdomain of computer science, the soft computing, and we have tried to integrate both, and we have tried to come up with a solution. At best, this paper can be described as an interdisciplinary paper. Okay. So what happens here is that that is very important now. So the first point, what is the aim and the scope of the journal? So we should have a journal. Let me see if I'm recording. Yeah. So we should have a we should have a journal uh, that takes into account both papers from structural engineering and both papers from the soft computing. So if I focus only on a journal that will take only papers from structural engineering, my paper may be rejected even before going to the peer review, and the editor will simply communicate to me that the paper is beyond the scope of the journal. Similarly, if I try to put this paper in a core computer science journal, the same thing may happen. So, a compromise solution or the best fit for your particular paper, you have to choose based on uh, your own experience in the field. There are some tools which will help us uh, to locate and identify the best suitable journals. We'll talk about them as we go later on. But this is the first thing that we should keep in mind. What is the aim and the scope of the journal? For example, okay, let us move to second point. And what is the primary source of deciding that which journal you should publish? For example, any journal or any article that you write, you will cite a lot of papers, right? You will refer to a lot of papers, you will cite a lot of papers. So once the paper is done, and even before the paper is done, so you get an idea of like which journal sources you are referring to. For example, in this case, you see that the mostly I'm referring papers from composite structures journal. Suppose say some papers are from advanced composite materials journal. So so based on this, see, there are so many papers from composite structure journals. So it means that a lot of similar papers have been published in this particular journal. Or for example, even a similar paper to this I had published in engineering with computers, and another I had published in neural computing and applications. So both of them are like interdisciplinary journals. And so by looking at the reference of your particular paper, you get an idea, or you tend to have an idea, okay, like this is the journal that would take this kind of work. Okay. So the primary uh, intuition about the uh, journal where this paper would be suitable comes from your literature search itself, right? From the references that you have cited in the paper. So, this is the second thing that you take care of. Now, the third thing is, what are the journal restrictions? Okay. So, what are journal restrictions? It's simply the restrictions simply means what are the article types that they're taking. For example, there are certain journals who would take only review articles. There are certain journals who would take only research articles. They would not go for review articles. And again, there are some journals who would go for both review articles and research articles. But for review articles, they will generally say that we publish only reviews by invited authors. Okay? If they are inviting someone to write a review, only in that case they are publishing the reviews. And there are certain journals who have some page restrictions. For example, this particular paper that I was showing you, it is like 23 pages and almost running it to 7,500 words. So it's quite a long paper. So a lot of journals I know. For example, there is a journal called Journal of Mechanical Science and Technology by Springer. It would not accept this paper simply because it exceeds the page limit. Their page limit is around, suppose say, 8 pages. So it is simply exceeding their page limit. So they will not accept this. So this is another criteria that you should keep in mind. Okay. So these criteria will help us. And how do we come to know that these are the criteria or these are the restrictions? For this, we need to refer to the individual journals. First thing we need to do is that we need to shortlist based on the tools that I will show you later, and based on this experience, like from the references that you have used, you need to shortlist, suppose say 5 to 10 probable places where you can, or where you want to put your uh, journals, or where you want to put your paper, or where you want to send your paper, publish your paper. So the next thing that you should do is that you should go to individual websites and see there for more information. For more information on what are the types of papers that will take, and what are the page limits that they have, what are the restrictions they have. So this you will come to know. This will vary from each journal to journal, and this you will come to know only when you visit their journal websites. And the last thing is that, see, publishing a paper is only the start of a process. Why do I say that it is the start of a process? Is because, like, you want that your paper should make a difference. Your paper should be cited. Cited in the sense, how does citation makes any difference? The citation makes any difference is that it simply, the citation is simply a testimony to the fact that your paper or whatever the research that you've done, that is useful. Someone else has referred to your paper, someone else has find it useful, someone else has used your information that you have shared in in that particular paper, and has used that knowledge to advance their own knowledge. Okay, so that is why these citations are important. And on an individual level, there are different metrics like the I10 metrics and the H index to determine the citation criteria, or determine the citation of a particular researcher. But from a journal's perspective, so you we call it as impact factor, or there are some other criteria also that are there for assessing the journal impact factor. But basically, the journal impact factor is a measure of the prestige, and it is a probability, and it should also be looked at as a probability of the number of citations that you are going to get. It's not necessarily that if, suppose say, the impact factor of the particular journal is 3, so basically what impact factor means is that, if suppose say any journal has impact factor 3, in layman's language we can say that there is a probability that on an average each of its papers gets 3 citations. Not necessarily that each of its paper will get 3 citations, but on an average it gets 3 citations. It means it is read by more people. Okay, so that is another factor that you have to decide when you are choosing a particular journal. Now, when I have shortlisted, as I told you, I try to shortlist like 5 to 10 journals where my particular paper will fit the bill. I think in terms of like the aims and scopes of the journal, in terms of the type of paper that has been published, in terms of the previous papers that have been published there. So once I narrow it down to 5 to 10 journals, the next thing I look at it is the for me, these are the 4 factors that I look at. For some of you, there might be some additional factors that you would like to look at. And this is the exact order that I look at. This order works perfectly for me. It need not be the same for you. For example, I put a lot of emphasis on the cost because my projects generally do not have uh, open access fee or article processing fee involved in them. So cost is a very big factor for me. So I try to publish in journals that are generally the subscription based journals that do not have any article processing fee or the open access fee. So so cost is a big criteria for me. So I would generally, once I narrow it down to 5 to 10 journals, then I would simply strike out the journals or reject the journals that have some cost factor involved, since my projects do not have that kind of fund allocation for the article processing fee. The next thing that I look at is the prestige of the journal. So, uh, in simple terms, there is no measure or there is no way to measure the prestige of a journal. It's just perception. It may vary from perception to perception. For me, the X journal may be better than Y, and for you, the Y journal may be better than X. It's based on perception. But still, there are some criteria based on which we decide that a journal is prestigious or not. We'll talk about this in the next slide. The next thing I look at is the speed of the journal, the speed of the review of the journal, or the speed of the publication of the journal. I have been at the receiving end of some of the improper selections in my past experiences where I sent some paper to a particular journal and it took around 2 years to get it published. Even for the review itself came after like almost 19 to 20 months. So it was a long wait. So generally what happens in our field or in any research field is that we want to conduct a research, we want to write the article, and we want to make it available to the readers or the public as soon as possible. But and most of the time, these research are very competitive. So a 2 year delay in publication means that before you, somebody else might have come up with the same concept, and you might not. Though you have submitted it earlier, you might not be considered as the original propounder of that theory or that particular paper or that particular concept. Okay, so that is why I tend to focus also on the speed. So generally, in most journals, 4 to 5 months is an average. Means it's on the higher side, but there are still some journals who would like have very less turnaround times. They generally try to provide reviews and everything, and a decision within 1 to 2 months. So such journals are also there. So we also have some tools available with us on the internet with which we can assess the speed of different journals. Okay, so we'll also look into that in later slides. And the last thing is the visibility. So like visibility is directly linked to the citations that you are going to get. Uh, a higher visibility not necessarily means that you will have a higher citation, but a lower visibility definitely means that you will have a less citation. Okay. So what visibility means is that how easily it is accessible or how easily it is accessible to the public. So generally we have seen that, and there has been a lot of chatter recently in the scientific community that the open access journals will have or have generally higher citations or higher impact factors than the subscription based, because like the open access journals or the papers in the open access journals are more freely available to everybody. So the chances are that they will be more visible and they will be more cited, they will be more readily available to people, and people will cite them more. Okay. So visibility is another factor that you should consider, that we should consider before uh, shortlisting a journal or before sending a paper to it. It doesn't make any sense. I will tell you from my own personal example. A few years ago, I published a paper in a particular journal. I'll just tell you the name of the journal. Okay, I've not listed it here, but the name of the journal was Material Focus. Okay, the name of the journal was Material Focus. In that particular journal, I published the paper, and now even I don't have a copy of that particular paper, because I have talked with my friends in the different universities, and even they do not have access to that particular website. They do not subscribe that. Though it's an ESCI journal, it's an Emerging Citation Index journal, but till now I do not remember getting any citations in that particular paper, because simply because that paper is not readily available. Even the friends, even my friends who are in the IITs, they do not have access to that particular journal. The journal is called Material Focus. So simply because there is less access to the journal, so that paper is not being referred, people are not able to read it. Even I personally did not have a copy, because that was the policy of the journal, which I came to know after I published, that they do not share the final proof with you because you have not paid anything there. So they do not share the final proof copy, or they do a proofreading part, but the final published copy they do not share with you. And as such, I have not been able to even keep it in my personal depository itself. So that is why visibility is another important aspect when we are trying to decide or select a particular journal. So coming back to the journal prestige thing. So since, as I already mentioned, that like the journal prestige is like a matter of perception. Uh, it will vary from person to person. But as a scientific community, as a whole, has some unsaid, or has agreed on some unsaid rules, or that there are some certain indexes. For example, the SCI index or the SSCI index, they consider them as reputable. They consider them of being prestigious, and a lot of different indexings has mushroomed just because of the open access boom. But people do not, and we as serious researchers do not consider them very prestigious, and anybody who publish in those kind of journals are not very uh, well respected. So what I mean to say is that uh, I personally believe, and I personally feel that while publishing paper, the first thing we should look is that whether that particular paper is in the SCI list. SCI stands for the Science Citation Index list, and that is basically valid for the engineering and the mathematics community. And if we are going to the humanities and the social sciences, we have equivalent ranking called, or equivalent indexing, that is called the Social Sciences Citation Index (SSCI). So while publishing a paper, we should try to look at if our particular paper is indexed in SCI or not. Okay. So again, if a particular journal is indexed in SCI, you can be pretty sure that the peer review process and the selection of the paper for that particular journal process is quite stringent. It goes to a strict quality assurance policy. So you will be assured that once you submit your paper to that particular journal, it will receive a very good feedback. Because that feedback is also very important for us. Uh, Getting accepted or rejected, that is a secondary thing. But if a paper goes into peer review and you get a feedback, that feedback itself is a very valuable commodity. Because even if your paper is accepted with, suppose, say, minor changes, you know that okay, I have written a pretty good paper, and these are the points that I need to do. Even suppose, say, it is rejected and you get some comments on it, so you can work on those comments, you can improve your paper, and try not to repeat the same mistakes if you have a similar kind of work that you will be carrying out in future. So that is why I say that sending a paper to SCI is a very good starting point, because even if it is rejected in the first go, you will get a very good feedback, and that feedback itself will be very helpful in improving and improving your overall research. Okay, so that is the first thing. So generally in the scientific community, SCIs are listed as the, or are considered as the top criteria journals, or the top quality journals. So we should always try to publish in those kind of journals, in SCI journals. The second category that we have is the Scopus journals, or the Scopus indexing. So Scopus is generally a much broader and larger set of journals as compared to the SCI. I think in SCI we have around 15,000. I'm not sure of the exact number right now, So I think it is somewhere around 15,000, whereas the Scopus database is of around 44,000 journal. So yeah, so in that sense, we have more papers or we have more journals in the Scopus database. So getting published in Scopus is a little bit easier as compared to the SCI in that sense, because we have more options here, because we have more journals here, we have more options here. So getting published in a Scopus should be a it should relatively be a easier goal than getting published in a SCI. Okay. Again, in general, what happens is that for 99% of the journals that I've seen is that almost all the papers that are listed in the SCI will also be indexed in the Scopus. Okay, because because Scopus and SCI both are very reputable indexes. So all the journals that are listed in SCI, you can be 99% sure that by default they will be also listed in the Scopus. But the vice versa may not be true. As I already told you, in the SCI we have around 15,000 journals, and in the Scopus we have roughly around 44,000 journals. So recently, to compete with Scopus, the Thomson Reuters group or the Clarivate Analytics group, they've also come up with some other indexings like the ESCI. Okay. You constantly see now you see a lot of journals that have this word written there, ESCI. These are also in the overall Web of Science. Web of Science is a indexing database that is of the same company that which owns the SCI, the Clarivate Analytics. So the WOS or the Web of Science is a collection of a number of indexings, and among the one of the recent indexing is the ESCI. ESCI or the Emerging Sources Citation Index may be thought of as a gateway to the SCI. Okay? It may be thought of a gateway to the SCI. So there are certain emerging sources, means there are certain emerging journals which have some good quality, but their quality is still not up to the mark of the SCI level, and they need further evaluation. So they have been grouped into the ESCI category. Okay, so my preference order is that I generally prefer to submit a paper to or publish a paper in SCI. If for some reason or if for some reason I'm not able to get it through to an SCI, I will target in Scopus, and Scopus with ESCI at the same time. That has both Scopus as well as ESCI ranking indexing. And if at all I am not able to get through to the Scopus, I try to get through to an ESCI index journal. Any other indexing, it's again a very personal opinion of mine, and I see that I talk with a lot of foreign collaborators, and I see that this is also a mutual feeling with a lot of my foreign collaborators, that beyond this particular uh, citation indexes, other citation indexes doesn't hold much value, simply because they do not have that kind of prestige, or that they do not have that kind of quality associated with them. Okay. So by publishing in this particular indexings, we are also ensuring that our particular paper is up to that standard or up to that quality metric of the international community or international scientific community. Okay. Okay. Let us move on. So now, how to make sure if a particular journal is in SCI list? Is in the SCI list. There, you suppose have shortlisted a particular journal, or some of your friend, maybe one of your friend has referred to particular journal, that this particular journal you may try submitting in this particular journal, and it is in the SCI list, and you want to confirm whether it is in SCI or not. So these are some websites where you can confirm the particular uh, you can confirm whether the particular journal is listed in SCI or not. Okay. For example, just click on this one. So this is the Web of Science original. It is their actual website. Okay, I've just logged into it. So here it is showing my name. So even if you don't log in, okay, let me log it out. So you can see how it will look like. Okay. So this is what it will look like. If you have not logged in to it, this is what it will look like. Okay, so we'll be using this link to make sure a particular journal is in the SCI list or not. So this is the particular platform where you want to search a particular journal. You want to see if it is in that particular SCI list or not. So let me take any arbitrary paper. I know that this particular journal is already in the SCI, but let's, for an example, like we'll see if it is in the SCI list or not. So you take the name of the particular journal. Here you can either type the name of the journal, or you can give the ISSN number if you have the ISSN number with you. Personally, if you are not sure of the exact letters or the exact name of the journal, it's better to provide the ISSN number, because the ISSN numbers are very unique, and then you can be very sure. Okay, so in this case I have just put the name here, the engineering computations, and I will just search here. So once you start searching, so this is what will show you. Okay, this is the page. It will direct you to a new page, and here you see the name of the journal is Engineering Computations. The publisher is Emerald Group, and it will also have the address of the publisher. And here you should look at here. This is the WS, or the Web of Science core collection. It is in the core collection, and so it is in the SCIE list. Okay, it is in the Science Citation Index expanded list. Okay, so why I suggest looking at this particular website is that because this is the official website of the Clarivate Analytics, where you can verify it, and you get other information here. For example, when you click it here, okay, for this you might need a login. For the previous page you do not need a login. For this you may need a login. You can simply create with Google. With your any Google account you can log into this particular website. It will show restricted information. If you have the uh, registered user ID for this, then you will get more information. But even if you do it with a simple your personal Gmail ID, it will show you little more information. For example, here it shows you a lot of more information. For example, here you get the information about when it was first published, how many issues it publishes in a year, what is the frequency. Okay, so these are the uh, information that it gives you. Another important information that this particular website gives you is the impact factor, the current impact factor. Okay, so, so the latest impact factor is 1.246 for this particular journal. So it is in the Journal Citation Reports 2019, which was published in 2019. Again, the next report, the upcoming report, will be published in around May or June 2020. Okay. So in the last citation report, according to the last citation report, this is the impact factor that it has received. Okay. So again, for when we discuss impact factor, we will again discuss it, that why it is 1 year behind, and in 2019 we get the impact factor for 2018. Similarly, for in 2020 we'll get the impact factor for 2019, and so on. So we'll discuss this why it is like this in our later slides. So if you have more access, then you would have been able to view this also. It shows you the 5-year trend. It shows you the citation distribution. It shows you a lot more information if you have the full registered uh, account here. Okay, so you can get it if you log in. If your particular institute has the has membership for this particular website, and if you log in with your institute membership institute ID, then you get the whole information. Okay. So this is the first thing. This is the primary thing that you can check, and from this you can check whether a particular journal is in SCI or not, and you can get a rough idea, not rough idea, you can get the exact idea of what is the impact factor of that particular journal. Okay, so since it is hiding certain information from us here, we are not able to access the whole information here. So I'll tell you the another website that is not the official website, but that is a website maintained by researchers like us. And for last 4 or 5 years I have been following this website, and I found the information very reliable. Okay. So I'll suggest this particular website to you also. So this is again useful for finding out the impact factor or the impact factor of the historic data of the journal, the historic impact factor data of the journal. Again, you can copy the name, paste it here, you can do a search. This is a free website. It is a community maintained website. It is a website maintained by researchers like us. So you do not have to uh, pay anything, or you did not have a account in this. They generate the revenue by running this kind of ads. So this is the particular journal that I was looking for. Let's click on this. Okay, so here similar information that is being listed in the SCI database, the same information is also listed here. Okay, okay. So now it is showing you a impact factor ranking that in the whole computer science journals, what is its rank? Its rank is 516 among all the computer science journals. And here you get a historic data. So this historic data is also important because it tells you for how long this particular journal has been in the SCI list or in the SCI database. Because certain times what happens is that every year the Clarivate Analytics has a very strict policy for its SCI database, for maintaining its SCI database. Every year it adds a few journals to its list, and every year it drops certain journal from its list, mainly because of its editorial policy. If it sees that some of its journals are not following the proper editorial standards, then they drop them from their database. So this uh, website gives us a historic data of the impact factor. So whenever the impact factor is there, it means for that particular year or for the previous year, the paper was, or the journal was listed in the SCI. Okay, so by this, if the graph here is continuous, so it also indicates that this particular journal has never been dropped from the SCI list. It has been continuously featuring in the SCI list. It has never been dropped. I know some journals which have been dropped from the SCI list, and again after 1 or 2 years they have again worked on the shortcomings, and then again they have applied, and again they have gone back into the SCI list. So, but for this particular journal, that is not the case. It has always been in the SCI list. So you see, it shows the historic data from 2000 to 2017 up to last year, 2018. So as soon as in 2020, maybe this time it may be delayed because of the COVID-19. But generally, the Clarivate Analytics publishes the data in, or the journal citation report in the month of May and June. May and June. So hopefully in May, June 2020, we will have the report for 2019. So from this also, you get an idea of the history of the particular journal. Okay. So if it has, so here also what you should look at is that you see that generally it curve is kind of increasing over the years. So it also tells you that the reputation of the journal has grown. Okay, I don't know why in 2014 they got very good citations. It was around 2.2, and it tanked in 2015 to around 0.9, roughly to 1, and now it seems that they are improving. Okay. So okay, other informations that you get here, the same information that you have here in the form of graph, the same information you have it here in the form of a table. Okay, it tells you the impact factor history. It also tells you the, basically this website helps you to find or validate if a particular SCI journal is reliable or not. Can you expect it even after 5 years, even after 10 years? Can you expect the journal to be continued in the SCI list? This particular website tells you that data. So here are some important tools for which I like this website. For example, here it tells you what is the 3-year average impact factor, and has it progressed or has it regressed. is there an improvement in the journal, or is there a like uh, decrease in the prestige of the journal? So you see that it has, the journal as compared to 3 years previous, it has improved by 15%, and as compared to 5 years growth, it has tanked by minus 36%. So this kind of data you get from this particular website. So that is why this journal is very useful. Okay, this is the H index. The H index here, the H index is again, we'll also discuss what is H index in terms of a author. But here, this is the H index for the engineering computations. So it means 51 means the engineering computations have at least 51 papers that has at least 51 citations. So think of H index as a square matrix where uh, one side is the, where one side is the number of citations and the other side is the number of papers. So if you have n number of papers having n number of citations, that is your n is then your H index. So engineering computations has 51 number of papers having at least 51 citations. Okay, at least 51 citations in 51 number of papers. So that its H index is 51. Similarly, this is the SCI Imago journal rank. We'll discuss about it in the next slide. Okay. So this information helps us to identify what is an SCI journal, and is it in the SCI list, and what is its impact factor. Now let us move to the next category of journals, that are the Scopus journal list. And for the Scopus journal list, if you want to validate if a particular journal is in the Scopus database or not, so you can use this particular website. Website for validating the validating a particular journal's inclusion in the Scopus database. So let us go to the, once you are in this particular homepage, go to the sources, click on the sources. Once you are here, so here there are a number of options: subject area, title, publisher, ISSN. So since we know the title of the journal, which is the, I will put the same name here, Engineering Computations. So here it has already shown me the name. Let us click on here and let us find. So when I find, it is showing me one result, computations. And once you click it here, you get the full history of that particular journal in the Scopus database, as per the Scopus database. So you see that the Scopus coverage here, this is very important. It shows from 1984 to present. Okay, you always want it to be present. Present means it is still covered in that particular website. For example, right now we are in 2020, and a number of journals will show that it is from 1984 to 2019. It means its inclusion for this year is still under process. For 2020, it has not been decided whether it will be in the Scopus list or not. But up till 2019, it was in the Scopus database. Okay, so that is why this is very important. Okay, it's very important to see from 1984 to present, it is there. So for this year also, it is being included in the Scopus database. Okay, it again contains the similar kind of information, the basic information, the publisher, the ISSN. Okay, the impact factor, we rely on impact factor when we are talking about the SCI journals. Similarly, in terms of Scopus journals, we rely on this number, the SJR data. Okay, based on this SJR data, the Scopus categorizes its journals into 4 different categories: quartile 1, 2, 3, and 4. So based on this, it will group journals into different quartiles, quartile 1 being the highest and the quartile 4 being the lowest. So this is the formula that they use to calculate the CITE score. Similarly, for any year, you can see it from here. Okay? And it also shows you the date on which it was calculated. So you see it was last calculated on 30 April 2019. So pretty soon we should have for 2020 also. Okay. Again, it shows you some rankings. For example, this journal is a multidisciplinary journal or interdisciplinary journal. So in the engineering, it is ranked 77 out of 275 journals. Similarly, it is also ranked in the computer science domain. It is ranked 60th. Okay. So in different, so at best, this is a like a mid-level journal. I think it should come in quartile 2 or 3. Okay. Okay. So here it shows you another information that it is in the 72 percentile. It is in the 72 percentile, where ACS Nano being kind of in the 99th percentile. ACS Nano is very high impact factor. It is around 15 or 16 something impact factor wise. So in the general engineering, it is in the top 28%. Okay. So this information that you get here, and another information that you get here is the site score, the calculations, how they have calculated the site score. You get that information here. Site score data will be generally very similar to the impact factor of the SCIs of the or the Clarivate Analytics. So the values, this site score value and the impact factor value that you will have from the SCI, that they will be there will be some similarity in this. They will be near about, because the formulas are somewhat similar. Calculation formulas are somewhat similar. This is a very important page. Okay, so whenever you are selecting a particular journal for its inclusion in Scopus, you should look at this. So the first thing you should look at is here, that from 1984 to present it is there, and in this particular year 2020, how many papers? Till now 59 papers has already been indexed in this particular website. Since we do not have the full access account, so we cannot view all the documents, but if you have your university login, if your university has subscribed to the Scopus database, you will be able to log in further, and you will be able to see the individual documents itself. Okay? And you will be even able to see the citation history of that document. So this panel is important. It shows that in this year also, till now 59 documents have been indexed in the Scopus database. Right? There is another website that would help us to get more information on the Scopus journals. This is another website. This is the SCI Imago website. Here it gives you the data regarding the SGR numbers and the in which quartiles this particular journal is. For example, let me type the name here. Again, this is okay. 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 So information. So I was expecting it to be in the quartile 2, but it seems it is in the quartile 1. Quartile 1 being the highest, best quartile. So in the engineering, it is in the quartile 1. Okay. So it is one of the top ranked journals in its own category. And similarly, the historic data of the impact factor that you saw in the other website, similarly here also, it gives a historic data of the citations per document. So you generally want a journal that should have an increasing kind of trend. And you want a journal that should have the total sites should be very high as compared to the self sites, because I'll tell you something. Self site is something that is basically it means that the number of papers that have been referred by the same journal. Okay, suppose say engineering computations, this particular journal is citing its own papers. Okay, that is known as the self site for a journal. Similarly, self site for a author is the if you cite your own papers in your new papers that you're writing, if you cite your old papers, then that is the self citation for authors. Similarly, the self citation for the journals is if you're citing the old papers that are published in that particular journal when you're publishing a new paper in that particular journal. Okay, so you want this to be low. You want the self cites to be low. Why? Because when the Web of Science or when the SCI list is updated, one of the criteria is one of the criteria is the self sites. So I will tell you one of the journals that I knew. I do not remember the name, exact name, but it was by one of the publishers. I think it was by Hindawi. In 2015 or 16, it was dropped from the SCI list only because its self citation has increased a lot. Since its self citation has increased a lot, so it was being dropped from the SCI list because it was considered as a breach of the conduct policies. Okay, so you want a journal that should have a higher total size and the sub size would be less. Okay, so again, the same information that you get here, that the H index is 51. That was also in this website. Also, you got the same information in the other website. Also, you got the same information here. So the same information you got here also. Okay, so that is why these are some complementary websites other than the official websites that help us to determine whether the particular journal is worth publishing or not. Okay. So let us go back to a slide. So in these two ways, you can determine whether a particular journal is in the SCI list and whether it is in the Scopus list or not. So I request you to every time you publish a paper, if you are not sure if the particular journal is being indexed or not, so refer these websites, and based on this information of these websites, take a very informed decision. Now, coming back to the first slide where we talked about what are the aims and the scopes of the journal. So, and I told you that you need to have a list of okay. So in our one of our first slides, we discussed about the how to select a particular journal. We talked about we should look at the aims and we should look at if how many you should look at your references, and from your references you get a primary idea that these are the journals that where you can put your paper. Okay. Similarly, as a complementary tool to this particular information, I have listed particular tools here, some particular web-based tools here. Okay. So this will help you in choosing a particular journal. Again, I will